Hi and welcome to this video tutorial. In today's video I'm going to teach you how to modify your style so that you can change the aesthetics of your form in order to match the look and feel of your website. For example, I'm going to show you a step-by-step tutorial on how to turn this form into this one. Notice that our new form is much more professional and it actually looks and feels like it belongs on this web page. So let's go to our Caspio account and let's take a look and see how we actually change the style to look from this to this. I'm already inside my data pages and here is my form on what it looks like. So if I preview it, you'll see that's what the form looks like, and that's why we have it show up on our website like this. So what we're going to do, close the preview, I'm going to actually go to my styles now and I'm going to edit that style that we have applied to our form. So I'm going to click on edit. And we're going to take a step-by-step just so you can see in order what exactly is happening when we make these changes. So I'll be going back to our website quite a bit and navigating back and forth. That way you can easily follow what's taking place in our changes. So for example, the first thing that you'll see is this top section. And any change that you make here will apply to all of your forms and detail pages. Everything below here applies to your results, all the reports that you build inside Caspio. So for example, the first option is labels. You can see that we have a black color for the label, 13 pixel label size, it's in bold, and then we have the face Tahoma, which if you look at the form, those are the labels. Now we have two types of labels. We have the default ones, which are not required, and we also have the required labels. So if you're making changes, if you have required fields, make sure you apply the same changes to both of these. So for example, if I wanted to make my labels this color and make them 12 pixels normal instead of bold, and let's say we change the font face to Arial, only to our default fields, not required. So let's take a look. If I save my changes, and if I go back to my site and click refresh, you'll see that we only made changes to the default labels. Now let's make the changes to our required fields as well. So I'm going to click on edit. And for the required fields, I want the same thing. Same color, same size, and same face. One thing to point out here when it comes to colors, you can pick one of our preloaded colors that we have, or you can drop your own color code here to change the label according to your own preference. For the required marker, you can enable it or disable it. The required marker basically is the asterisk right over here. So if I were to disable that, you wouldn't be able to see that. So let me go ahead and make my saved changes, refresh my site, and you'll see that the required marker is no longer there. It's still applied on the form, so if you try to submit, it's not going to let you submit it unless you provide these three answers. So I'm going to go back to my style, under labels, required marker, and I'm going to go ahead and enable that and maybe change the size to 12 pixels. And also change it to Arial. So we keep the same formatting. You keep everything uniform on the label side. For the fields, so if we're making changes to our fields, that's going to apply to these guys right over here. Those are the fields. So for example, if I make a different color code for the background option on my fields, let's say I do a light gray. It's going to change our field color to gray. Padding will actually change the height of your field. So let's say if I make this 7 pixels and click save, watch what happens to my form when I refresh. Notice the height of the field is much bigger, and then we have the light gray color in the background of the field itself. I'm going to edit again. Under fields, I'm actually going to move it back to 4 pixels. And I'm going to have it be background color white. That's, I think, my preference, but of course you can change that yourself to whatever you think is best for your website. You can also change the border color and size of your fields. So for example, we have a custom color here enabled for border of the fields. What happens if I, let's say, maybe have it light blue, 2 pixels, and a solid border? And if I click save and refresh again, you'll see that my fields are now back to 4 pixels in height, background is white, and I have a border of blue. And I'm not a big fan of the border, so I'm actually going to edit again Go back to fields, and I'm actually going to move that to maybe a gray color, 1 pixel, and solid is fine. You can also have a dotted border, dashed, double groove, and a couple other options are available for us. Let's click save. Make sure everything looks okay. And yeah, I'm actually happy with this look and feel here. So the next thing that I like to do is maybe remove this background white color to make my form transparent with my website. To do that, we're going to edit the style. And to change the color of the background of the form, you want to go to layout. This is where you can change the outer container of your form. So for example, if I wanted to put a border around the form itself, I could do that. So let me show you. So if I select maybe this blue, and if you say 4 pixel, and how about a dotted line, you're going to see a border around the entire form. So let me click save and refresh, and you'll see that dotted line around the form. And again, I'm not too pleased with that, so I'm going to remove that from my style. So going back to layout, outer container, and what I'll say is none for the color, and I don't want any border around my form. When you get to rows, rows is where you can actually change the color of the background of the form itself. So right now it's set to white. I don't want to have any color behind my form, so I'm going to click on save. And rows refers to these rows, labels and fields. So notice what happens when I click refresh. The background white is gone, and now the form actually carries over the image or the background color of my website. Makes the form much more transparent, and it makes it actually look really nice in this template here. If I go back to our form that we're trying to build, so we still need to make a few more changes to our button and also some padding with the labels and the fields. Notice how I have much more spacing here in between my fields and my labels. So let's go to styles, and now let's go ahead and change our button. So the button changes you can make right over here under buttons. A really nice feature in Caspio is you can also do an image replacement for any of these buttons that we have inside the wizard. So for example, if you create your own button in Illustrator or Photoshop, and if you publish that button to your server somewhere to your hosting company, you can grab the HTTP reference link, and then our button will be replaced with your own button that you create. But we're going to use our WYSIWYG tool that we have here for standard button. Notice that its background color is green. I'm actually going to make it light blue, and then once I hover over the button, I want to make that background color darker, something like this. And when you're done, click save, and let's refresh. And notice what happens when I hover over the button of the color of the button actually changes. If you want to add more padding to your button, so the label is not too close to the border of your button, you can go to styles again. And while a lot of the things can be modified using our settings here, which is more of a point and click system that Caspio has, you can also go to their source tab, and if you know some CSS, you can actually just drop your CSS code here, and you can apply the changes to your labels, required labels, and also fields, buttons. And what I want to do is just adjust the padding of my button a little bit. So I'm going to say 10 pixels from the top and bottom, and I want to say 30 pixels left and right. And what this means, let me show you a little bit more in depth here of what I'm trying to do. If you think of it clockwise, starting from the top, 10 pixels means it's going to create padding above your label. The next one is the right side, bottom, and left. So you go clockwise, top, right, bottom, left, and it's just going to create padding in between your button or labels or fields depending on where you're applying that padding. And if I click save, notice that now my button is going to have a lot more padding in between the label. And I also have to apply the padding in my hovered. See how it's only just in the standard, but I also want to apply that padding in the hovered section. So let's go ahead and click on edit again. Go to source for buttons, and we're going to take that padding, I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste that in the hovered section as well for the submit button. There's submit hover, and I'm just going to replace this with this padding. Click on save. And let's refresh one more time, and now it's correct. And the next step is now to adjust the padding of my fields and also my labels so it's not as long of a form. Again, we're going to edit the style, and to do that we have to go to layout, and first we can change the labels. And same thing, notice the padding section here. We can just say 5 pixels and 7 pixels, and it's going to be top, right, bottom, left. So what kind of change do I want to make? I want to put some padding above my label so it's a little bit more aligned with my field. So what I'll do is I'll say maybe 9 pixels here. Let me save my changes. Refresh. And notice how the labels shifted down a little bit. Well, they're almost in line with my fields. So now let's narrow down, let's eliminate some of this padding here in between my fields. So let me edit, go to layout, and let's go down to field cells. So I want to eliminate the padding below my field. So what I'll say is I'll say 0 pixels here underneath the field. And let's take a look and see what that gets me really quickly. So let's save. It's always going to be a little bit of trial and error until you finally get to what you want. And there, we have taken out some of that padding in between my fields, and now I have a form that's very similar to the one I created earlier. So we have very much the same form, and we can also change the width of our fields, and you can do that in the data page wizard. So if you wanted to make the field a little bit longer or a little bit wider, so you can go to data pages, edit the form, and right over here where it says field width, why don't we change that to maybe 30 for each one of my fields. And if I click on save and finish, let's refresh. And now my field's a little bit longer, and my form now looks very similar to this one. The only thing that's missing is just a little bit less padding in between the fields. And this is really how you change the style of your forms inside Caspio. It's fairly easy. Hopefully you're able to follow this tutorial to be able to change the look and feel and appearance of your own forms. If you do get stuck, feel free to contact our technical support, and somebody from our team will be more than happy to assist you. Thanks for watching.